that I read, he gave this extraordinary circumstance to Matilda at the end of the episode, where George's fate is decided, and Tom Lee comes back to the farm and flippantly tells Kizzy and Matilda that he's gone. And before there's any time to process that loss, he demands of me that I decide which 3 of my 8 children he's gonna sell. And it was that moment that I wanted to specifically tell the story of Matilda. And even though we changed the circumstances around that, I could never get rid of that initial visceral response to that circumstance and use it as the jumping off point of where I created this story. And it was that moment that I realized and appreciated Matilda, the power of her presence in this story. When we talk about Matilda, she's often described as a preacher's daughter and Chicken George's wife.
I've been correcting people all day on that. George is very much Matilda's husband.
And
that's usually the case, isn't it?
And certainly, you know, I love my father in this story. I am fiercely protective of him. I share his undying devotion and faith. I am obviously, you know, George's wife, and he is the love of my life. But I found myself identifying and describing myself as the mother of Kunta Kinte's 8 great-grandchildren. And so, how did I play that? I don't know.
Inspiringly.
Beautifully.
20 years, we have 20 years, I'm so emotional. It's the first time I'm talking about this since we were in New Orleans. But the idea of that 20-year separation, that he didn't get the opportunity to pass on to our sons and our daughters with Kizzy, that became my responsibility. So that's in addition to the role and the importance that this woman played in this story. And I hope by the end of the 4-night event that whoever experiences it realize the presence and the power of the women.
Of the women.
And this woman.
And of this woman in particular. And I think it in many ways mirrors the importance and the presence of African American women in our community and in our families.
No question.
It mirrors that in many respects. And you mentioned Ruth Carter. I don't know that she needs this introduction, but she has costumed 40 films, I believe, perhaps over 40? Over 40.
We'll count 40.
The Butler, Malcolm X, Amistad, Selma, Chirac, has received Academy Award nominations. I will say, I was able to visit the set in Louisiana, and Ruth allowed us into her sanctuary, really, where the costumes are designed. It, for me, was a light bulb moment. And it was just, to see her work and to explain it was fantastic amongst all of the costumes of Kizzy. Chicken George, you saw Fiddler's outfit. Please tell us the amount of research that you've done, your process to get it right, because you got it so right.
I don't want to bore you with that.
Well,
I just want to talk about the collaboration with these brilliant people here on stage.
Please do.
I do a lot of research, yeah, I do. And I have to. I have to know what the clothes were for each era. It's 100 years, and people didn't wear the same thing for 100 years. So that being said, I take this story that she just told you for 10 minutes. It goes on, and I sit with her in my fitting room, and we come up with wardrobe that fits that story, and that goes on with Rege. Rege walks into the fitting room, he's a ball of fire, and he has a story, and he's pacing around the room, and he's talking to me, and I'm following him, and I'm listening to him, and I've got the history of his costume. I know exactly what the pieces are, but I'm listening to his story and his arc and where he's going. I'm listening And then I throw a coat on him. He's still pacing the room. And then I get a pair of pants on him and he's feeling it. He's feeling it. And then I throw that bowler on him that Ben Vereen had. And I said, you know, that may not have been around in 1806, but we're going to pay homage to Ben Vereen and we're going to use it. And he goes, I don't know if I really want to, I might want to make this my own. I might want to, and he's twirling that hat around and he says, but I don't know. And then I take a picture and I show him the picture and he says, yeah, that's it.
So it's a real collaboration.
It was
And
such
then
an
Malachi comes in and I say, you know, look, liberty to slaves, Lord Legionnaire. Who knew? Lord Legionnaire in the Ethiopian regiment. They freed the slaves too. Here's the hood they wore. Here's the hat they wore. Here's the boots. And he puts it on and he kneels down on the floor and it's almost like he can feel the water. And I take his picture. I have that picture on my phone. And it's like he's there in the moment. And then he looks up at me and he says, yeah, this is it.
It's the power of the costume.
That's the magic.
The magic, the power.
That's the beauty. That's the feeling that you want.
And Ruth makes some little costume in clothes. You're doing character work with Ruth. That's what's so wonderful.
It's just phenomenal. You see the progression, so many different periods, and you see it in the costumes. I want to open it up to the audience as well, because I'm sure there are a lot of questions.